Okay, welcome everybody to Distance Learning with Common Sense. Today we are going to be discussing social and emotional learning and how we can support our students from a distance. My name is Jennifer Ehehalt. I'm the Senior Regional Manager for Common Sense Education, and I'm really excited today to introduce you to my friend, Kat Crawford. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we are really excited. We are looking forward to learning all of the things that you've been doing to help support your students through, social emotional learning during this time. So you are the Director of Technology Solutions at the Center for Education Excellence in Alternative Settings in Austin, Texas. So what's it like in Texas today?
It's kind of mild. It's been fluctuating between like 70s and 90s out there. It's nice to get out and walk around a little bit, but it's definitely surreal.
Yes, right? I know. Well, we just want to, sit back, relax today, and just have a conversation. We talked prior to this in the planning of all of this, and we had a lot of great conversation just around some of the things you implemented over the last month or so with the audience that you serve. So I think it's important for our audience, let's just tell us a little bit about your role and your, what your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm honored to work for nonprofits. So I get to do a lot of really interesting work, and we support alternative schools. And in that work, it could be an alternative school in a school district, but also secure schools inside detentions, jails, long-term secure facilities. And so that social emotional component is really, really critical to the work that my teachers are doing with their students. And I work all across the United States. And so this is a little foreign to me to be home. I'm usually on a plane somewhere, living in a hotel, traveling around, working with teachers. So my new normal has quite been disrupted, much to the chagrin of my children, who now have their mom there all the time. But it's been really interesting to support the work that's happening, because right now there are 60,000 students who are locked up between the ages of 10 and 18. And there are more that are being held in temporary custody who haven't actually gone through court yet. And so within that population, students are still in school, but teachers primarily aren't there. There are a handful of locations where teachers are still coming into the classroom, but kids are still being brought into educational spaces, and education still has to happen. And because of that, we've had to move very quickly in supporting that work in a myriad of different ways. Some is, paper-based, depending on the level of technology, and for others, it's transitioning to one device in the classroom just to remote in the teacher, all the way to one-to-one in the classroom. And so sort of supporting those three different models, SEL is a really critical component for our kids to be successful in an education environment. And so we've had to envision, what does that look like in all three of those places? And so I would say for me, I'm on the computer, on the phone, 24/7, talking to people in different time zones, in different spaces, at different levels of frustration and excitement. For some teachers, this is what they've wanted to explore in some capacity of connecting with kids with technology, and they're sort of getting to try new things that they've wanted to do, and in other places this is all new to them.
You're absolutely right. Going back to what you said about all these different ways, strategies, varieties of ways to deliver SEL content. You mentioned paper, you mentioned, the good old computer or laptop. I love the idea of equity, and I felt like you are thinking of ways to reach all kids. And I say all and stress all kids, because whether, no matter what the situation of the child, the teacher is no longer, present. And it's so important to feel those connections. And you're right, teachers are grappling with this too, whether, they were high tech, loving tech teachers that really this is my chance now to try all these cool things I've been learning, and
Yes.
Now I have it all to myself and I can do this and it is great. And then you have other teachers that are somewhat grieving. They are not seeing their students. It's what they're used to. It's how they teach, and it's how they're comfortable. And so there is social emotional learning, I think, on both sides
Mm-hmm.
of of the computer right now. And so I really like how you've, reached out to think about everyone. So,
Yeah.
the pain points are certainly the same, I think, no matter what the setting or, who's involved. So, trying to figure out in a variety of ways how to reach kids, whether through, all the different communication tools that are out there that we've been seeing through these series as well, just educators sharing out what those are. So let's talk about, some of the things that you've been doing, finding time to connect with students. I think everyone is scurrying for this, right? They miss their
Yes.
kids. They're, what are ways? They don't have devices. Some have devices. Some parents are involved. Other parents or family, caretakers are not highly involved. So I would love to hear some of the ideas you come up with around connecting students to feel that social and emotional framework, and even that foundation or the groundwork that they're used to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first and foremost is utilizing screencasting to reach out to your kids. And so thinking about that to set sort of your welcome message, your expectations for the day, maybe modeling what the students are working on, giving them some feedback. I mean, if you've gotten work from them, this is a great time to do shout outs and talk about some things and highlight some things students have been doing. But I've even seen, and I call it like the Dora the Explorer, where some teachers are going on, they're like, how are you guys doing today? That's great. And it sounds so childlike, but the kids are responding to it. And I think that screencast of seeing your face and letting the kids absorb that material as much as they want to, they might want to watch that video 3 times. And because you've given it to them in this sort of flipped model, they're able to access that over and over again. I know for my own kids, a lot of their teachers have said, my email is an open door. Just email me if you have a question, if you want to do a check-in, if you want to tell me how you're doing. And I think that one-to-one sort of, time that kids can share, they're not going to share that on a huge Zoom call, right? Like,
Right.
I had the worst night ever, they're going to tell you that in an email. The other thing that's been really interesting, especially inside of the facilities where kids are still going to school in a classroom together, is we've said, take a computer, set up some office hours, and just say, here's the link, and kids can go over to the computer and the teacher's just waiting there. They're just in a Hangout, in a Zoom, just sitting there waiting for you to ask them a question or check in with them. I've also encouraged teachers when they're connecting with their students to say, if you're getting frustrated with the material or you need to just talk to somebody, try to come to me after your 3rd attempt, not your 30th attempt. It can be really hard to calm down when you're so frustrated after trying something for 2-3 days and it's even for me, I work with teachers who, are so frustrated with the Zoom settings that by the time I hear them, they're frazzled, right? Come to me a couple of attempts in and let's solve the problem when you're in a good space to do that,
So you're offering office hours for both the educators, like teachers, educators out there that are navigating all of this stuff for the first time, for the most part. And then you're also offering office hours for students to feel welcome, especially for some of the students that we serve. I do think like the teacher was their only person, so to speak, that they felt comfortable with. And as much as maybe a lot of students won't admit it, they miss us. Right?
Yeah.
They miss their teacher, depending on the age, but
absolutely,
they do, because it's their constant. It was the adult in their life that they saw every day and could rely on and trust every day. So just being able to say hello for some kids could be a huge thing that they look forward to every day.
Yeah. And I think there's a connections piece that's really critical too. So we've tried to focus, and the area that I think it most applies to like a comprehensive school teacher or a parent is we have some kids who really need community service right now. There is a high need for kids to get community service hours. It might impact in some states kids graduating, right? Or kids maintaining their NJS or NHS. I mean, this is very serious to a lot of kids, and it's on the forefront of parents and kids' minds. And so I've seen some really great ways that students have been creative in coming up with, designing things that they can do at home, whether it's masks or bracelets to raise money for PPE to make an impact. Kids need to feel like they're a part of what's happening. We've done something similar called Care Mail, where we have asked students to sign up to write letters to kids who are inside of secure facilities. because they're not only being held in those sort of smaller CDC recommended populations, but they've cut off visitations from their family. So they're not letting a lot of people into those spaces, and those kids are more isolated than ever. And so what happens is students can write 4 letters, send them to me. I read everything before it goes to the student who is in the secure. I pair them up with a specific school, and then the kids read the letters and they can choose to write back. We partnered with a school in Norway, and the letters were just the most incredible things I've ever read. Just the way that kids reached out. And one kid wrote every sentence in English and then every sentence in Norwegian, back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Just to say, like, at the end, he was, I hope that, you know, you start speaking like me soon. Like, he just had this hope that after one letter, you're fluent. Like, it was so beautiful and precious. And they've done hand drawings. And it just makes our kids in alternative settings feel like we're not forgetting about you. Like, you're important too, and we care about your social and emotional well-being.
I mean, Caramel, I mean, in your setting, obviously, what a fantastic idea, but Caramel can be sent to anyone. I know nursing homes, and I know in my neighborhood, we are putting together, kids are drawing pictures for nurses and doctors to hang in the hallways of the hospitals, like thanking them for what they do. And I know a nurse was like, seeing that, you know, those little drawings, artwork, it makes your day. So any type of Caramel that you can think about that can be sent out into a community setting that's reaching folks that do feel isolated, no matter where they're at. I love that idea. And I do think that, you know, that's one really nice takeaway as an idea that you can try next week, you know, which is really nice. It's not, it doesn't feel heavy. So that's a nice, very good thing. All right, good. So, you know, you talked about some of the ways you're connecting, obviously the office hours. You've talked about, on both sides, the welcoming, you know, setting up the stage, the foundation for what these next few weeks are going to look like, just to give students a schedule, kind of. And among that, I don't want to lose sight of, we talked a lot about mindfulness when it comes to social emotional learning and just some of the things that are out there now. I'd love to hear, you know, what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my jobs in the past few weeks has been designing curriculum that's going into these spaces. And we've been taking mindfulness activities and putting it in between every 2 subject areas. And so that could be breathing exercises, meditation, drawing and writing activities, and thinking activities. And everything that I have pulled, every resource I have, will be shared with you today. There's over 30 activities, as well as like a creative workbook of mindfulness activities that I pulled. And they're just great ways for kids to sort of stop and reflect, take a break. And that is so important. I mean, I have high school kids, and they go to different high schools, and the work that they've been given is different day to day. And so there are days when they're incredibly overwhelmed and stressed, and days when I'm like, are you doing anything today? Like, what's happening over here? Why are you asleep? And so I think it's really helpful to have those built-in breaks where necessary. So parents and teachers could grab these resources, print and go, email to their kids, and really find a way for them to manage the stress that they're going through, which isn't the stress that we're going through, right? Like, we're like, can I pay my mortgage? They're like, can I go to my prom? So it's just, but it feels the same for them as it feels for us.
Right. It's all stress. We're all stressed out. I think someone said we're all in the same boat. We just have a different storm. I think I saw that somewhere, and it was just really resonated with me, because I thought, you know, it's true. Like, we're all, you know, grappling with this in different ways. But your ideas around the activities, I did take a look at the mindful activities. I think Barbara shared in the chat. So thank you, Barbara. I felt like they were really, some were just so simple, like just to get you up and breathing. And believe it or not, it's weird how that really helps. No matter as a child, an adult, you know, even as a family, you know, some folks are, you know, tasked with working. You know, you still have a lot of families that are still working out of the home with parents and doing online learning, distance learning with their child. So, you know, by high noon on some days, we all need a good go noodle in our lives, right? We all need to get our wiggles out, or, you know, whatever. We all need to just take a breath and take a walk alone, or so as simple as they can be. But then there were also some other ones in there that I hadn't thought of, which was great. So it's a really nice variety of a list that kind of meets the needs of any personality, I felt,
Right.
or, any, environment that you're in. It didn't require a lot of resources. A lot of it was just
Right.
like stuff you had or, laying around the house, which makes it really easy and tangible for people. So I really like those lists. So thank you so much for sharing them. And then the creative workbut. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I just like subscribe to anybody who's offering their ideas into the world. And so sometimes, I don't get as caught up with my promotions emails, but I stumbled upon this workbook that someone was offering up for free. And I started pulling some resources out of it to incorporate into our sort of mini modules. And I've linked that in there if you guys want to pull from that. That's where we have kind of the subject area work, and then the mindfulness activities. It's more geared towards high school. That's helpful.
Okay.
But what's been really interesting in that space is that it's very focused on like drawing, but like creative thinking. So they're sort of processing about like, if I could have a shelf of 10 books, like right on the spine and decorate the 10 books I'd want to read, or my favorite 10 books, what would they be? And so it just kind of takes them out of the moment for a minute. It gets that kinesthetic involved, and they just connect. There's one in there that I love. Like, if I could reach out to somebody right now, what would I say? And it's like, looks like they're sending text messages on a phone, and they write in the text messages. And I just think that's so powerful for kids.
I love that. I really do. I mean, right now, I think you're right. The most important thing is to step away from the reality of what's happening. Whether that's, I look forward to I have 2 young children myself. And honestly, the Play-Doh, just playing with Play-Doh again, are the simplest things that even for 20 minutes, you walk away going, I could turn it off.
Yeah.
And I think whether we're adults or children, we need those times to turn it off and feel, take a break from what we're feeling.
Absolutely. I would agree. I'm going to have to send you a good recipe for therapy dough.
Oh, yes.
The dough that has like essential oils in it. And so it smells really calming, and kids can make it themselves and change the colors, and your kids would really enjoy it.
Oh, wow. We'll have to make sure we share that too. Oh yeah. Everyone's like, please share the recipe. We can definitely look that up and make sure it's in our video for the final, launch on YouTube when we put it out there.
Definitely.
This is good stuff. I really, are there any other last minute takeaways that you wanted to add that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I love your community service. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was just thinking, the screencasting thing, I did put some directions. I made like a little 1-pager in there. I just think that is so important for kids to feel like they know what's happening out there. So I would definitely, if you haven't tried screencasting yet, it's a great way to flip your classroom a little bit for kids. I've been encouraging teachers that, typically we have this like I do, we do, you do model in the classroom. And now what I'm kind of sharing with teachers is the I do is the screencasted version. That's the content. You go on there, you explain to them what you want to explain, have your face up there, have your Google Slides, turn on your captions for accessibility so they can read at the bottom and capture that, send it to them. They can watch it 10 times, 1 time, whatever. Some may not watch it, that's the case. Then when you come together in your Zoom session or Hangout, then do your do your activities, make it interactive, have kids participating. They're not just listening to you. And then when they get to the you do, that's when you have your office hours. You're there to support them as they're working independently and getting into that mastery. And that's where you can embed a lot of social emotional support, face-to-face, one-on-one. So that would be a really good model for those who are kind of designing to support students in this space right now.
Very good. Thank you. I love that ending, kind of like that recap. Here's the model. Here's what seems to be working. And yes, thank you for sharing this screencastified directions in case we do have anybody new or looking into that. Kat has shared those, and I think Barbara put them in the chat as well. So you guys have access to that. I just had one question that came into the Q&A. If we use second step for social emotional learning, do we have to teach it verbatim in a recording? Do you have any insight on that?
I actually, that's
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. No, it's not something that I know.
Okay.
But I'm definitely taking a peek at the curriculum, I know a lot of the stuff that we do, we end up having to adapt for our environment.
Okay.
And so it becomes hard for us to use things that are kind of created for comprehensive programs, but it looks like a really awesome program. So now I'm gonna have to go check
We
that
can
out.
follow up. Yeah, we will follow up and answer any of the questions that we didn't get to today. So
Yeah.
please, no worries. I just thought I'd put it out there in case anybody had any suggestions, even in the chat, who's on listening. So good. All right. Well, thank you, Kat. We're at time. So I do want to be mindful of that because we want to keep these short and sweet. We know time is precious for everybody right now, but you have shared so many valuable things in 20 minutes. It's incredible. It's amazing. And I do think that our audience is going to walk away with lots of good, easy to do things like to incorporate into what they're already doing, even as early as next week. And you shared so many good things. And I think the Play-Doh, the therapy Play-Doh might be the most exciting.
I just put the link in the document, Barbara, so you can throw it in there, the one
good.
that I used. So you guys don't even have to wait for the YouTube video.
Okay, good.
We're going to get it to you today.
That in there. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, catch us on YouTube. This will all be recorded and housed on our Common Sense Education YouTube channel in the coming days. And we look forward to seeing you next week for the next ones that are going to be coming out to you this weekend. So we hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again, Kat.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Anyone reach out if you have any questions.